Let me first start by saying that I love Deadline. It has gotten me through some very tough times rendering things that I never thought I'd actually finish rendering. It is an incredibly powerful piece of software. However, it is a pain in the butt to install. I have attempted to make it a little bit easier. However, this is still going to be a little complicated, I promise. I will make it as straightforward as possible, but I do apologize for some of the pain you feel along the way. I'm going to try to do this in under 30 minutes. Hopefully this video is less, and we will get there by fast forwarding through a lot of progress bars. So without further ado, let's get a base level of Deadline up and running. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install Docker. Docker is a great application that allows you to use something called containers to run different applications, programs in an isolated environment. Isn't super useful in day-to-day life, but if you're trying to set up a server and set it up with settings that are consistent and repeatable and you don't have to think about them, it is great for that. So let's go ahead and just go Docker desktop. And we can install the big old thing here that says Windows. And this is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. But we'll find out. All right, let me just pull. Okay, I don't want a shortcut. I am going to use WSL2 instead of Hyper-V, which yes, I definitely want to do that. We are going to close and restart, and we will have to do this one more time as well before this is complete. So I'm going to just hit stop recording and do that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and try to open up Docker desktop. Oh, there it is. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and accept this because I am a business fewer than 250 employees and I make less than $10 million in annual revenue. So I don't have to pay. All right, Docker desktop starting. All right, and this might actually not, okay, perfect. It yells at me for this very reason. The WSL2 Linux kernel is now installed using a separate MSI package. Please click and follow the link to install the kernel update. So let me click on this. So there's a link right here, WSL2 Linux kernel update package for x64 machines. We will download that. We will open it, finish. So now that it's finished, we will press restart again and I will stop recording. I restarted and I'm going to go ahead and try to open Docker. Woohoo, okay. So Docker is up and running. So now, next step, could do this another way, but I'm going to make you all download Git as well. We're on Windows 64-bit, and that should be yep, sure. I'm installing this over a version I already have, but I'll take you through it. Just keep everything default and you'll be fine. Okie dokie. So what we are going to do is, now that we have Docker, we are getting Git, we can go to github.com/postwork-io, which is my repository, and then deadline_docker. Yay! Alright. This has a bunch of instructions on it that give a little bit more instruction on what you need to do, but I've done all this to make setting up Deadline much easier. So I'm going to just open up file browser and let's go to Hey, that's me. And then in here, usually my home directory, I create a folder called workspace where I put different projects. I already have a deadline Docker thing running, but I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. So what I can do is go open a command prompt. And since we downloaded Git, we have Git. So you type that and it gives you a bunch of information about that command. So I'm going to change my directory or change my folder first into workspace. And then I can change my directory. Yeah, actually that's exactly where I want to be, just in my workspace. So I'm going to go back over to GitHub, click down on this code, click on the little copy button right there, copied. I'm just going to say git clone, and bam, I have all that stuff right there. So the cool thing about using GitHub is if I ever make any changes to this, or if you get a little bit more into it and you fork my repository and you make changes to it yourself, you can just do a git pull origin master. Oh, I gotta cd into deadline Docker git. Just go up and git pull origin master. It says already up to date because I haven't made any changes. If I had made changes, it'd actually pull the most recent ones down. So that's there. Look at the instructions I put together. One of the first things we want to do is, let's just go into here. There is a example.env. So this is a file full of environment variables. They are ways that you can customize your own install so that it's a little bit more secure or it's more suited to your needs. I give descriptions on what each of the environment variables are under here, but I will just run through. First, we just want to copy this example.env and rename it to just .env. So we can open that up. I'm just going to open it with Notepad, why not? Don't really have to worry about these. These will be whatever versions and like where it's downloading it from. If you have anything else running on the computer that are using these ports, feel free to change them. Definitely change these to actually a secure password. Same with this one. This one is just important that it has uppercase, lowercase numbers, and symbols. Root domain, if you're actually using a domain name for setting this up, this becomes important, but if you're not, you can, maybe just change that to something else. I don't know. Do whatever you want to do with that. It doesn't really matter if you're using IP addresses. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go through doing RCS TLS. This is just our connection to the deadline infrastructure will be encrypted. Pretty easy to set up. I will not be showing you how to use the web service or the forwarder in this. Cool. So all that stuff is good for what we're doing today. So now that that's set up, Docker is running. What I can do is type in a command now, Docker, compose, build. The Docker containers have built. So now that's all left to do is say, let's actually type on the thing, say Docker compose up. I just want to do something very quickly to see what the IP address of my computer is. So I will go to ipconfig. Now I could just type in localhost or 127.0.0.1 and it would work for it, but the whole point of Deadline is you're probably going to have other computers on your network that want to connect to it. So I will go ahead and grab my IP address and I can just drop that in here and say 8080. And this will use the username admin, password admin by default.
if you want to change that, you can just go over here and change that to something else. So in here, we have a few different things that are going to be important. Mainly right now, it is going to be our installers. So you can see that they have these weird numbers at the end of them. That means they are still downloading. So we're going to wait for our Windows installers to download. So these are for the actual worker program that renders stuff on your computer or manages the renders on individual computers, and also the deadline monitor, which allows you to see jobs that are running. Some other things that are on here too, we can download while we're here, is there's a certs folder. So we will want the deadline 10 remote client.pfx. This is what will allow us to connect to the server along with the passphrase that we set. So I'll just download that, and then we'll just go back to installers. Yay, the Windows version is finished. All right. Let's go ahead and download those. All right, I can open this up, run the deadline client Windows installer. And I don't have to extract it, it'll do that itself. Let's just go through and set up deadline on this computer. I accept. Next, I want to install the client. I'm connecting to the remote connection server. So I'm just going to go ahead and, while that will work, I'm just going to enter that same IP address that I copied from before. 192.168.1.183. And going to grab, this is what I just downloaded. Probably put it somewhere other than your downloads folder. I've been doing a lot of testing, so I have a lot of these, but I'll just use my most recent one. And I will grab this password. So I'm just gonna copy that, jump back over to the installer, just paste that right there, hit next, that's fine, and then we'll do the setup. Dunzo. So we can open up, that's done. Let's open up deadline monitor. All right. So once we're in here, we can download integrated submission scripts. So I'm just gonna download that, and I want everything for Cinema 4D because that is what I'm going to be using right now. And okay, submission, Cinema 4D. So there are installers. These never seem to work super well for me. I'll try running it. Next, accept, next. Yeah, so it doesn't even have the version of C40 that I want to use it with, which is 2023. So I'm just going to hit cancel, because all we really have to do is go into here, go into client, grab this, copy, go into here, and there I have one, but I'll delete that. Yes, I want to delete that. And I'll paste that. So I'm going to do one other really obnoxious thing before I can actually render in here. And the really obnoxious thing is, let me just copy this path right now. And I'm going to open up another command prompt. And I'm going to also just open up my Maxon app just to make sure that it's running. So I have my Maxon app running. And I am going to paste that right there. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm going to run this, and then it is going to yell at me that I don't have a license, but I do have a license. Okay, so basically I just have to say I will use my Max on app. Oop, license okay. And basically that just puts this file in like the preferences folder. I don't even know what that does. Okay, so I can get rid of that. And now if I were to open Cinema 4D, wow, R19, why did I open R19? Cinema 4D has opened. So let's just pull, hey look, I already did this. I did this beautiful spinning box animation. Oh, let's just do something silly to it as well. No, I'm not going to do anything silly. I will just render this as is. So I have saved this. I have my render settings set up. And I have that being written out to a place. So then I can go to extensions, submit to deadline. All this stuff looks fine. I'm going to go ahead and actually, this is going to render super fast. However, every single time you render a frame, there's some overhead with processing, like finding the next task, doing other things, like relaunching the render process. So for scenes that might go really, really fast, it makes sense to group the frames per task to something like 10. So that means it'll render 10 frames before it tries to look for the next task. Doesn't make a ton of sense if you're doing longer frames, but this will render pretty quickly this way. So I'll just hit submit. All right, so that's submitted. Or it should have. Hello. Hey, there it is. So there you can see everything grouped, frames 0 through 90. However, nothing's rendering because you need to actually have the deadline worker running. All right, so that's running. It pulled up the job. And if you want to see a whole bunch of nerdy information about what's going on, you can open up the worker log. And yep, it just rendered 9 frames or 10 frames. Moving on to the next chunk. Just rendered those. And it keeps moving on. I'm not going to go deep dive into this, but I mean that's basically it. Obviously, there's different concerns if you wanted to run things on a network, but basically the biggest concern about running things on a network is all the computers can see the like the 192.168.1.183, which is my specific IP address that this is running on. So all the computers can see that IP address, and then you also have to have either on a single computer set up like a shared folder, or have a NAS or something like that. So all the assets are in the same path on all the computers. There are ways you can actually do path remapping so that, you know, you might have a few different options. Like say the computer you submit jobs from has a different path mapping than all the computers that are rendering it. Or say you have some computers that are Windows and some computers that are Linux and some computers that are Macs. You can all just set up the path mapping so those all work together. So that would be up here. There's a whole bunch of options for changing how things work. But yeah, here's map paths. There's a ton of different settings, and this can become very, very powerful, but that was just a quick way to set it up. Yeah, and if you want to see what you actually rendered, you can just right click on any of these and explore output, and it'll open the folder. See all these beautiful cubes. Wow. It really is spinning. All right.